In our day, ongoing research is being conducted into the sense of smell. Every new insight into this sense serves to reveal just how superb this complex system is. Now let's examine more closely the various parts of the system. The nasal cavity that detects smell is just beneath the eyes and is lined with a sticky mucus fluid. This mucous membrane measures just 0.06 of a millimeter thick, which is ideal. If this membrane were thicker, we would have a weaker sense of smell. But if it were thinner, it would have weakened our immune system, and our tiny nasal hairs would have left open to damage and destruction. Smelling starts at the mucous membrane. The smell molecules have to pass through this membrane in order to meet with the receptors in the nasal hairs, and there are binding proteins made just for this purpose. These proteins in the mucous membrane unite with the smell molecules and serve as their guide. This order is both striking and at the same time constitutes. Specialized olfactory nerve cells are another part of the smelling system. The basic task of these cells is to take messages from smell molecules and take them to the olfactory bulbs. A smell cell is formed by three main parts: the cell's body in the middle, and then on one end, tiny hairs called cilia, and on the other, nerve extensions called axons. The odor molecules first interact with the receptors on the hair-like cilia of our olfactory membrane. Each olfactory neuron is topped by between 10 and 30 cilia, which range in length from about 1/10 of a millimeter to 1/15. The cilia work using an extraordinary communication mechanism. The odor molecules that melt on the mucus meet with the special receptors in the cilia. This meeting is as sensitive and unique as a lock and a key. During this meeting, a signal is given in the olfactory receptor cell. These cells transform the messages in the olfactory molecules into electrical signals. At this point, astonishing things happen at the axons on the other end of the smell cell. The axons, whose number ranges between 10 and 100, work together in order to transport the signal in the cell to the olfactory bulb inside the brain. They do this by forming a bundle in order to reach the olfactory bulb, and as a group, pass through a porous, paper-thin piece of bone called the cribriform plate. This bone has pores in it which allow the passage of the olfactory neurons. Had the bone not been designed in just this way, it would have been impossible for the nerves to connect to each other, and so would have made smelling utterly impossible, even if all the other pieces of the system were right in place. By virtue of this perfect planning behind all the details of our smell system, communication in the smell cells goes off without any hitches. The olfactory bulb is another important part of the olfactory or smell system. The olfactory bulb lies on the front side of the brain, on top of the nasal cavity, concealed upon the brain case. There are two olfactory lobes in the brain, just as the nose has two nasal cavities. Each of these lobes is about as big as a pea. The olfactory lobes work like a newsroom at a TV station or newspaper. All the signals coming in from the olfactory receptors first gather in this center. Millions of pieces of information are reorganized here. Later, they are sent to the related spots in the brain through smell nerves in order to be reassessed. In other words, this tiny organ constantly sorts through and coordinates millions of different smell cells.